Welcome to another episode of A Handful of Minutes. Today we're going to be interviewing street artist Posterchild. Hello, thanks for having me here.
You're very welcome.
So, this interview, of course, is conjoining with our episode from last week where we looked at Faux Reel's Vespaheads and all the hullabaloo around that and the big issue of selling out, blah, blah, blah. So, my first question to you, of course, is as a fellow street artist in the same city, what was your initial reaction when people started doing things like scrawling sell out on his works? Did you feel that was kind of appropriate, or did you feel it was kind of like an insult maybe to, like, you know, the profession? I mean, because the guy's entitled to make money, right?
I felt it was inevitable. Yeah, I don't like the term sellout in general.
No.
Sellout implies that you show up with talent and all of a sudden it's very easy. You can arrive and just sell out and then it's really easy. Like, even if your goal was to sell out,
yeah,
you would have to work for years and years and years to even be at a position where it was possible for you to sell out. Yeah. So if your goal is selling out, it's still pretty difficult. Yeah, it's still a pretty admirable goal in a weird way.
Plus, I mean, as I say, it often comes back to money, but really the term should only be implied when there's a kind of compromise of morals or beliefs, for example, or a contradiction in the work, I would say.
I think the term is so wishy-washy as to be almost meaningless. I don't think it's ever really used consistently, personally. But I do agree that I think most people kind of use it in trying to imply that you were doing something for a certain moral or ideological reason, and have abandoned those in favor of money.
Yeah.
I would say that, yeah.
So given that Faux Reel, a lot of his body of work running up to the Vespaheads involved him defacing advertising and often using advertising as a means, he repurposes it to show how asinine a lot of advertising can be. For example, this $300 lobotomy thing. And so he does that, and then he gets paid to do advertising. I see a conflict in that. Do you?
No. I see a conflict, I'll get to that, but Faux Reel is interesting. When you're working on the street, people are right away rushing to apply certain labels to you. I mean, I work as a street artist, putting up posters. I'm competing in the same space with advertisements, competing for space. But I don't consider myself anti-advertising necessarily.
Oh, okay.
Hold on, let me gather my thoughts. See, this is it's interesting, and I've now talked about Faux Reel's Vespaheads 3 times. I've been asked about, which is bizarre to me. I get asked about it more than my own work.
It has become something of a hot topic, right? Because of the whole, is it legitimate, is it not, where's the authenticity, that old argument, which of course really just tends to come back to whether or not people like it. And then of course it does also blur the line, right? Because there's so much illegal advertising anyways, which is essentially just street art by companies. And then we have street art by a dude paid by a company. So it's kind of, everything's getting a bit messy. I think people are maybe as angered by that as anything. The fact that you used to have these very clear demarcations between what was advertising, what was street art, and now
Yeah.
You know, so much the blurring of the line has anything to do with him making money. Do you think? That's part of what's gotten the hornet's nest stirred.
Well, that's what I was trying to say earlier, that Faux Reel has been put into a very entrenched position, and if you actually go back and look at the interviews with Faux Reel, he never said, like I was trying to say, I've been asked about 3 times, once in New York by the anti-advertising agency, just recently in another interview. So from an advertising perspective, it's obviously been a successful advertising campaign.
Certainly the buzz is there, people are talking.
But, that's my train of thought. Right, so what I want to, I got to be careful when I'm speaking about Faux Reel's work, because I want to be very...
We want to be respectful, that's
well,
one thing.
Well, I want to be very clear on what I'm trying to say. Again, I don't think Faux Reel ever said he was heavily militant anti-advertising.
It's true.
In fact, he's often said things to the opposite, saying, I work on advertising to better understand how advertising works. Things like, I don't want to misquote him again, but... To paraphrase, he's never been, I am anti-advertising. And I really relate to that. Personally, I get hit also with labels like culture jammer, or, I don't know. It's not used for people, but just the whole idea of ad busters being so popular, especially in Canada. If billboards and advertising disappeared tomorrow, I would still be out doing my thing. I do not exist solely in opposition to advertisements. No. I don't like how they have complete dominance of public space.
They're a competitor, but not a binary opposite.
Well, the different sides of the same coin. The only problem is that, I mean, if you go back to the roots of graffiti, I really think, I've never seen this said before, but I can't be the first one to say this. I can't be the first one to say it because it's an obvious connection. New York, well, history of graffiti is long and convoluted, but popularized modern hip-hop graffiti in New York. You have these kids inventing a new art movement, a new art culture. They don't have formal art training. They don't have exposure to museums. The popular art of today and their time was what? Advertising and maybe cartoons.
Right.
And what you get is an art form which is essentially amateur advertising or guerrilla advertising or outsider advertising.
Icons of brand recognition, just different.
Exactly.
Things. Yeah.
And I really think that cultures get the kind of graffiti they deserve. And all these people lamenting the scourge of graffiti, it's really our backlash, society's backlash for being so consumerist. We pump our children full of these ideas, and they turn it around and give it back to us.
But we don't like.
And we're like, well, this is terrible.
Yeah.
But it's that's what I mean by different sides of the same coin. Tweezing apart graffiti and advertising is very difficult. And again, I'm not anti-advertising. I'm the type of guy who goes to those advertising film festivals where it's all just commercials.
Yeah.
Some of the best art being produced today, some of the best popular art, is ads. But
there is some antagonism, however. For example, your series of How's My Advertising, with a number for reporting illegal advertising.
This is the problem. It's all advertising is only made to sell something, and it has complete monopoly. And, well, the third thing, I guess, is that they're huge bullies. So, I don't know, I'm getting off topic, but that's...
So
Does that answer your question?
It answered a lot of questions.